red light is on, the microphone is on, and it kind of sounds like that, and you're kind of tall like me, so you're gonna have to kind of lean down a little bit. So just make sure you're probably about that far from the mic if possible, just to get a good, you know, good solid whatever. And then you can, if you feel most comfortable reading through your script, you can read through your script. If you want to, you know, use it as a guide and speak from your heart, I mean, it's really up to you, kind of how you want to talk. And then, so the board members will be sitting here, and then I can guarantee you they're going to ask you some follow-up questions. I can guarantee you, because they're going to be interested. They might want to know, so what do you do, you know, at Rankin, or what do you know, that type of stuff. So that's about it. Okay? You feel good?
No.
No? It's all right. You're honest. That's all right. Yeah, you'll do great. Yeah. And that, I don't know if sometimes the board has asked if a parent wants to say something. Sometimes they call them up impromptu. So if you don't mind, just being ready. But otherwise, just, you know, you're welcome. If Isaiah wants you to stand up here, you can. But we can do whatever. Okay?
Yeah.
All right? All right. red light will be on, and you can see if you're back here, it's not really going to hear. So you're going to have to make sure, get your mouth real close to the mic. So then you'll be up here. You're just going to put your notes there. You're going to have. So these are all.
Possibly. That's like a 50-50, yeah.
Ms. Vaughn, you ready? Need a motion to go into open session?
I move.
Ms. Vaughn,
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard,
Yes.
Ms. Jones, Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Cousins.
yes.
We have a quorum.
We're going to go into our new process, so I would like to start off by reading the board norms that were adopted April 9th, 2019. Decision making. We believe our first priority and greatest concern is the educational welfare of all students of St. Louis Public Schools. We align decisions, discussions, superintendent evaluation, district partnership, budget allocations, etc., to be current transformation plan. We demonstrate respect for diversity of thoughts, backgrounds, and experience, roles, and decisions once they have been made. We embrace healthy debate. We acknowledge board members with differing opinions during discourse in both open and closed session to gain clarity and engage in meaningful dialogues. Professionalism. We demonstrate engagement by thoroughly reviewing the board packet and other documents, arriving on time to meetings and work session, remaining on topic during discussion, and respectfully interacting with each other, the superintendent, staff, and all stakeholders. We demonstrate a respect for diversity of thoughts, background, and experience and roles. Communication. We demonstrate professionalism and respect for other board members, the superintendent, and the district staff by adhering to timelines and deadlines outlined in the workflow calendar and any other tasks assigned. We conduct all official board-related email communications using our @slps.org email accounts. We read and reply to all board emails within 72 hours. We conduct all official board-related phone and text communication using district-used phones. We check voicemail and return phone calls and texts within 72 hours. We are ambassadors in the community, and as individuals concerned or questions arise, we will seek to understand the information and gather pertinent facts in order to direct stakeholders and staff to contact appropriate district personnel. We channel concerns or requests for information through the board president, who will direct those requests to the superintendent in an organized, conscious manner. We recognize the importance of proactive communication and agree there will be no surprises. The board president shall be the official spokesperson for the board. The superintendent shall be the spokesperson for the district. Board members who receive requests for board issue positions shall direct the questions or requests to the board president or superintendent. Confidentiality. We respect and maintain the confidentiality of closed session items and the board's discussion on those items. We refrain from discussing confidential business in public with members of the press or with anyone else not privy to such information. If it is necessary to provide a statement to the public following a closed session, the board president and superintendent will agree on a unified response prior to making a statement. Approval of agenda. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I move.
Any discussions?
Second.
Ms. Vaughn?
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Cousins.
Yes.
Motion approved.
I need a motion to approve March 11, 2025 regular business meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussions? Ms. Vaughn?
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Abstain.
Motion approved.
Dr. Borshade, it is on you.
Good evening, President Cousins, Vice President Davis, and members of the board. As you all know, I've been working with Steve Carroll, our lobbyist. Some of the things that we've been working on include going to Jeff City to share about the great things that have been happening here in St. Louis Public Schools. We shared the one-pager while we were in Jeff City that really highlighted the growth of our students and staff made on M6 and our APR. The next thing we worked on was Senate Bill 42. Senate Bill 42 was about school safety assessment, where schools would be asked to do safety assessments. And I'm sure that we all understand the need for school safety assessments. To date, all of our schools have completed safety assessments, and we have shared in a letter sent to Jeff City and during a testimony that it would cost St. Louis Public Schools a minimum of $150 million to address all the safety vulnerabilities within St. Louis Public Schools. Now we're working on language to ensure that St. Louis Public Schools and our surrounding districts are not impacted by open enrollment that may be suggested. While the goal of open enrollment appears to create choice, it's hard to understand how our students would benefit given the following that would be impacted. Finance. When students leave districts, finance follow those students where they go, and districts will be financially impacted. Transportation. Currently, we have a $40 million budget for transportation, transporting students locally within the district. Transportation costs would increase, and our budget would increase as well. Staffing needs. Staffing needs would be greatly impacted with open enrollment. Thinking about social emotional well-being. Currently, our students have an opportunity to have peers within the district in their respective neighborhoods. With open enrollment, students will be coming from all over with no opportunities to create lasting friendships. For this reason, I come to you with a resolution to prohibit open enrollment in St. Louis Public Schools.
Thank you, Mr. President Cousins. Thank you, Dr. Borshade. So yeah, I think this is the 5th year that open enrollment has been introduced in the legislature and passed out of the House. It's already passed out of the House, and so we'll see what happens in the Senate. Although this year is very different because there's a very supportive governor of this effort. So he seems to be getting what he wants so far, but till the budget comes around. And I know that other school districts belatedly jumped on this, where we've had it on our legislative priorities and platform since I've been here to oppose this. And I know that we had been to St. Louis County meetings of legislative with other school boards, and they didn't seem to be aware of it until we brought it up. So thankfully they've jumped on this as well. My question about this resolution is the one thing that is missing from this, and it's probably because other school districts don't have it, is we have in the bills in the past been successful in keeping in a provision that would exempt St. Louis Public Schools, mainly due to the desegregation lawsuit. And it goes in, it goes out, it goes in, it goes out. You know, it's never passed, so it's never made a difference. I wonder if this resolution, if we should include that language specific to us. And I wonder if, since we have a legislative meeting on Friday, that we can refer this to the legislative committee and bring it back on the 22nd. Because it's not going to pass the Senate until the last week. So we've got time.
Or could it be an amendment? Could we move with this and make that an amendment?
I just off the top of my head don't know what the language would be. Because we had different, and we've just had different language over the past, and then there was one that ended up and was agreed to through the various committees. But again, I think we testified against this at least twice over the last 4 years.
Vice President Davis, being the legislative committee chair, can you explain the impact of open enrollment if this should pass? The effect that it will have on not only St. Louis Public Schools, but on public education as a whole?
Well, so the fear is this: there are still limitations in this bill where districts have to agree to accept the students. They only get the state aid; they don't get the local effort, and there's a cap on it. I still think it's 3% to go out of your district, and the cap is whatever the receiving district says. So if they only want 4 kids, they can only take 4 kids. The most egregious parts of the bill, which I think don't even accomplish what they say it's going to accomplish, is they do not need to accommodate IEPs. So if a kid has an IEP and wants to go out to a different district and they don't have the staff, or if they don't want to add the staff, or they just don't want the kid, they can say no. It doesn't include transportation. So as we know, and so here's the thing. Here's why we were exempted. St. Louis Public Schools, St. Louis City has had a version of open enrollment between the DSEG busing, the voluntary interdistrict busing, and then the magnet schools, as well as our neighbor schools, have open enrollment. You just don't get transportation. So we've had open enrollment, you know, and it's expensive, but it's been open to everybody. This is not. This is very much a strange thing. So I think it probably makes sense in rural school districts. If you're on one end of the county and you have one school in the county, it's on the other end, but you just cross the county line and the school's right there, that makes total sense. And it doesn't make sense that those kids have to then drive, you know, an hour and a half to a school across their county when there's one over the county line. I mean, but they could easily fix that by population control. So I don't think actually anybody in St. Louis County is initially going to participate in this. I don't even know if Jefferson County and St. Charles County are going to participate in this. However, what always happens, you've seen it with vouchers and everything, once it's on the books and it's set up to fail, then they start coming again. So that's the same thing with vouchers. We knew vouchers weren't going to work. We knew they weren't going to raise the money. They weren't going to have enough money. So they had to, it's the 5 people that were able to participate love it, so now we need to expand it. So this year now they're just going to use general revenue to fund vouchers. Same thing with open enrollment. That's what happens in other states. Once you start it, the caps start to be reduced, the having to consent to have the kids move there, and it just becomes a free-for-all. So all of those things that Dr. Boris today listed will become the reality.
Thank you. Are there any other questions in regards to the open enrollment topic? Any other questions or discussions? So is the motion to move?
So I would move to refer this to the legislative committee to the meeting on Friday.
Seconded.
Any other discussions? Ms. Vaughn?
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Cousins.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Tonight, you will hear from Dr. Beck and Dr. Jabari regarding the evaluation of Choice Neighborhood Initiative. Dr. Jabari is a researcher and will be bringing background information related to the Choice Neighborhood Initiative with an ask to partner with St. Louis Public Schools.
Good evening. My name is Molly Beck, and I am the Director of Research and Evaluation here at St. Louis Public Schools. And I'm introducing you to Dr. Jason Jabari, who is going to provide an overview of the Choice Neighborhood Evaluation, for which he and his team are requesting data from the district. We believe that the evaluation works in collaboration with at least 2 of the district's strategic goals, family-community partnership, and equitable and multiple sources of data. And as Dr. Jabari will discuss, one of the goals of the evaluation is to see if participation in the Choice Neighborhood Initiative is associated with improvements as measured by the district's student success goals. These goals, in turn, prepare our SLPS graduates for post-secondary success. So, Dr. DeBari.
Thank you very much. So we have a quick agenda today. I'm going to provide some background about myself, the CNI project, the data requested, the data security plan, and benefits and products. So I'm a former middle school teacher in the North St. Louis City. I'm an assistant professor at Washington University in St. Louis. I was assistant principal in Boston, and I'm a public education officer for the U.S. Army Reserves. Some background on the Choice Neighborhood Initiative. So this is a place-based initiative from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. It focuses on housing redevelopment, including redeveloping systematically distressed public housing units. It includes neighborhood investments for children, such as tutoring, mentoring, after-school programming, and wraparound supports. And it is in North St. Louis City, 63106. Some background on the evaluation. So we will examine the impact of the Choice Neighborhood Initiative on SLPS students, those who receive Choice Neighborhood Initiative services. We will not be examining the impact of SLPS school attendance or any other SLPS initiatives. This is funded by the William T. Grant Foundation on a Reducing Inequality initiative. The data providers consist of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, Urban Strategies, Shelby County Schools, Baltimore City Public Schools, and DESE in Missouri. The data requested includes longitudinal attendance, achievement, and behavior data for both treatment and comparison students. For our data security plan, so all data is anonymized. SLPS has a key for CNI service students, so those who receive the services. As a researcher myself, and Washington University does not have a key, so all the data is anonymized. Data will be stored using two-step authenticated, a secure folder that only the PI, myself, has access to, and all data will be destroyed at the end of the project. Potential benefits. So with this project, we can understand the degree to which housing contributes to educational inequalities and reducing them. We can make the case or not for more place-based federal resources, especially in places like St. Louis, and we can demonstrate the value of districts partnering or not with neighborhood organizations. In terms of products, so we'll have a short report provided to HUD, DESE, and SLPS, and then a longer report provided to the William T. Grant Foundation and other researchers. And we provide all parties with an extended period for review prior to any dissemination activities. Thank you, and I'm here to answer any questions. Is there any data sharing that happens outside of the security parameters you listed on, I don't remember what slide it was, but one of the slides?
No.
Okay, so the data all stays in-house with you as the PI?
Yes, the data stays in-house, and it's only reported in aggregate.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So my question is, this data is going to be used only on students that live in public housing right now?
Particularly students that live in public housing in 63106.
63106. And your organization, or this is a not-for-profit, or Washington University?
Yes.
And how are they going to, how is this going to be helpful to the students as well as the community for you to get this kind of data?
Yes, so we'll be able to tell if participation in after-school activities, tutoring, and other wraparound supports have benefits to student outcomes. And we'll be able to share that information both with the families as well as the district.
So how will the families of these students be participants in your data collection?
That's a great question. So in addition to the data that we are requesting to collect, we have conducted qualitative interviews with families to understand some of the opportunities and barriers to accessing community wraparound supports, particularly for families that live in public housing units in St. Louis.
So when you were thinking of how you're organizing the data collection, how does St. Louis Public School fit? Because we're already doing the same thing that you're talking about. So to me, it's almost like reinventing the wheel that you're asking for this data, because it just seems like it's common sense to know that how the results are going to end up anyway. I'm not understanding why you really have to have the program, because everybody knows poverty, what it creates.
Yes, and so this study is looking to see at the effects of various place-based programming in places that serve students who formerly lived in public housing units. And this will be the first evaluation of the Choice Neighborhood Initiative, which is the largest place-based initiative from the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
So will you be lending some type of support at the end of this test run, or are you going to be helping SLPS?
Our hope is that the findings will help SLPS and determine if these types of programs, partnerships are useful, as well as the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So our hope is that these findings will be useful to see what works for students living in public housing units, especially those that are being redeveloped.
Wow, thank you.
So, I'm curious, what made 63106 be identified?
So that was the place which HUD developed for the grant. So that was a neighborhood in which HUD provided the resources to redevelop the public housing units in that neighborhood.
So, this was the grant, I'm trying to make sure this is the right grant that you got, that I know. This is the USI grant?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the USI grant that you all went after. I don't know if you did it yourself, but this was the USI grant that was applied, and you utilized schools within the 63106 zip code, correct?
So this is not the Promise Neighborhood Initiative. This is the Choice Neighborhood Initiative, which was, I believe, received in 2017.
Okay.
And I was not a part of that. I'm just the external evaluator.
Okay, so you're the external evaluator, and the purpose of this grant and what you're trying to do is gather data from the students within the 63106 zip code. Do you know what schools those are?
I don't have them memorized here.
Do you know, Ms. Molly? I didn't see it in there.
There were 7 schools in 63106 that received some of the services that Dr. Jabari talked about, for example, and I can get you the full list, but right off the top of my head, I don't know.
Okay.
I recall it was Jefferson, Carver, Carlane, Columbia, Bashan. I don't know who the other two might be.
And the purpose of this, Dr. Jabari, is to try to see, you're gathering data to see the impact of the students and families that are in housing, in HUD housing, correct? And how they receive resources and services. Is it the impact that it has on their academics?
Yes, the
Okay.
impact on their academic performance.
So when you look at that and you see how that happens, and then you see what happened when they took the housing, or they removed the families from the housing, and they had to renovate them, and all the families moved out, and they left Jefferson School, and out of the 6 schools or 7 schools that I think they named, I know we lost a large population, and they didn't come back. What did your research show, or have you done that yet?
No, so this will be part of the outcome of the study. We'll be able to track their performance, and then we'll also be able to see where students move during redevelopment and if they return back afterwards.
And I think the challenge that I have, it kind of goes back with what Secretary Jones is saying. I mean, we can kind of give you that data already to let you know they didn't come back. We don't have, the resources or the lack thereof that the nonprofits that say that they were providing to the families and the students that our teachers were looking for and were hoping to get, they didn't get it to them. So I think I just find it challenging to see that we're asking and we're constantly using and seeking data on something that we kind of already know the answer to. we are challenged with people wanting to get information on our families and use the data for their best interest, where we kind of have in-house been utilizing and seeing the loss of resources and seeing people constantly, and I hate to use this term, we've said it before, and I think that's how we're constantly being attacked, but constantly for years been pimping a district, you know, for the data, for the information, and we don't ever see the return on investment. And I think that's what Secretary Jones, and I don't want to speak on her behalf, but I think that's what she's saying. You know, people come and say that this is what they're going to do and they're going to help us, but no one comes back with the solution. We know what the solution is. They're not getting the resources. We're not saying the money. We're saying they're not getting the services that they need to support, to lead them to be successful. So I'm just curious, it's because HUD is providing these services that the grant is being given, the research is being asked, but how do we get the return on investment to give the quality of services to our teachers, the quality of services to our families, to make sure that they get the adequate help that they actually are supposed to be getting? That's what we're stuck with. So that's just my soapbox, sorry.
No, I appreciate that. And I think that's something that we will be able to identify as the specific resources that students have taken and whether or not those lead to academic outcomes. So whether it's tutoring or it's wraparound supports or whether they're moving during the redevelopment process, our hope is that we'll be able to pinpoint those, provide those back to the district, and that will be of value.
But this, I guess the question that I'm asking you, I'm hearing what you're saying, but I think the challenge is the district is the one doing it. The district is doing the work. The district we're seeking the adequate partnerships that we're supposed to, you know, that we should be seeking. You have these nonprofits that claim, which I think that's part of what you're looking at in your research, that they're claim that they're providing the services, but they're not actually providing the services. And I think that's what we can tell you what your data is going to show. You have this nonprofit that's anchored in this community that's saying that they've been working with the school that Vice President Davis just said. I can give you an example, Jefferson School. We go into the school. We see how hard this principal and the teachers are working and what they're doing with these students. It was disheartening to see that this principal and the staff is busting their butts trying to maintain the population that they have because HUD and this developer decide to tear this building down or so-called renovate this building that only been there for 10 years, renovate a building, move half of the population out in the county. They didn't come back. And these nonprofits that claim that they're going to be working with this school to maintain and keep the population there, they didn't. But the district brought the reading and writing initiative and partnered with an entity that's not in the community to bring the necessary resources to make sure that the reading levels you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So
and I'm here to say
challenge.
that. No, I really appreciate that. And I'm here to say that I'm an external evaluator who's happy to provide the findings based on whether or not those were, the resources were received by students, whether or not they worked, and how they affected the long-term outcomes. So again, I'm just an external evaluator who's here to be able to look at the previous partnerships and be able to hopefully provide that back to the district and say, for students that participated in these programs, these were their long-term outcomes, if that's of value to the district.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, so the tutoring, mentoring, after-school programming, and wraparound supports, those have already occurred?
Yes, the Choice Neighborhood Initiative is complete.
So through USI or whatever other entity, they received 28 million or something like that, 20.8 million, I'm not sure what the amount was. And so as part of that, they provided services in these 7 schools?
That's part of the research question, is to be able to identify which students receive those services and to be able to look at the long-term impact.
So right now, you don't know the value of the services that they provided in the schools?
That is a research project, is to be able to determine what is the long-term outcome of participating in this program and receiving various services.
But I guess my question is, did the services even occur?
We'll be able to know that.
So they got the money, and then they had to hire you to find out if they actually did anything with the money. fair to say?
No, what is fair to say is that I'm the external evaluator who is looking to see if uptake of certain services that were received by students led to long-term outcomes.
So these were services, though, that USI provided in the schools, is what you're looking at, not at services that were already provided in the schools.
These are an evaluation of the services that were provided as part of the Choice Neighborhood Initiative. Some of those were provided within schools and some of those were provided in neighborhoods.
Okay, but my question is, I mean, so it's attached to the money, and the money was supposed to be invested in part in the neighborhood and specifically in the schools, right? So tutoring, after-school program, mentoring, and wraparound services, were those school-based programs, or were they in the neighborhoods where the schools were located?
A mix of both.
Okay. And so those were the ones that happened in our schools were funded by USI.
I can't speak with specificity on whether or not those services were funded by USI. I
Okay,
can just
will
look
that be
at-
part of your research to delineate those two? So for example,
Absolutely.
when this was announced, I will never forget this because we didn't know about it. It was in a press release, it was news stories, and one of the big things was they were talking about there's no access to preschool in these neighborhoods. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, that's a lie. I said, we have universal preschool in the city of St. Louis. I know Columbia, Carver, Jefferson, Gateway have preschools with capacity. So I'm like, well, we've already started out on the premise that is incorrect. So, I mean, if part of what they're saying is, well, we've invested in preschool, well, they haven't. So I'm questioning about these other services too, like, because the other thing they said was there needs to be social workers in the schools. Well, if there's social workers in those schools, there needs to be nurses. There's nurses in those schools. So, I mean, they were talking about a school system that they didn't understand. So, but they got the money first to promise those services that were already in existence. Are you following me? So how are you going to delineate between what we were doing and what they were doing? Because it sounds like the research is going to say, okay, well, this stuff works, give USI more money. But they didn't do any of this. We did it. So how are you going to put that in your research? Because we're not getting these grants.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing you is it's important to delineate where the services came from, and that is an objective of the research project. So that's one of our charges, is to be able to
I
understand
think if you want data from our schools, it should be used to support our schools, not nonprofits that are profiting off of our schools. How much is Washington University getting out of this? Because we're not getting any money out of it. How much are they paying you?
I mean, my salary is determined by the university. I mean, that's
But
not something that I can answer in this forum.
Is part of the grant, is William Grant giving money to Washington University?
They pay a small portion of my summer salary to conduct extramural research projects.
The USI, the HUD,
No.
they're not getting any money from this, so this is just part of WashU participating in this out of the goodness of their heart?
The funder is the William T. Grant Foundation.
And are they giving money to WashU as well?
They're paying a small portion of my summer research
Okay.
salary.
Yeah, this is my last comment. So it's very worrying to me because I used to live down in that area. I used to live in Pruitt-Igoe as a child, and I can remember when there were people everywhere. There were neighborhood houses, there were laundromats, there were people on every corner, and all the schools that you named are all the areas close to the NGA. And I know that we are currently in the middle of gentrification. And I know that when people come, they're going to have gated communities. And it's important that they do an analysis of the people who currently live there so they'll know how to handle that. And I'm just really sick and tired of our kids, our families being studied, and they're not really bringing the money in to help our families, but only to destroy the families. And that's what's bothering me. I can remember where Homer G. Phillips, that little clinic that they're closing now, there used to be, the fire station used to be a clinic where my mom used to walk us down there to have services done for us. There used to be a church there. There used to be, all of that stuff was there. My grandma, my mama, everybody. And then here you come, Washington University, all these so-called highly educated people saying dumb stuff to me, saying we need to study, try to figure out where the money is going and how it's going to be spent on the students. The money is not being spent on the students. It never has been, except for St. Louis Public Schools. And it's just really gotten old, and I just think it's a waste. I'm tired of our children and our families being used as guinea pigs. And it's been far too long when the gated communities come, they're trying to wipe those students out that look like me. And so I just really find it insulting. I really do. Because we all understand what mobility is about. It's about homelessness and all the other things that come with it and poverty. There's nothing down there right now until the real people come. And it's not not geared toward you. This is just the whole program in general. I know you're just doing your job, but it's very painful.
I appreciate these comments. This has been a good learning opportunity, and I appreciate the candor of the committee.
Board Member Conover.
Dr. Jabari, is St. Louis Public Schools the only students, families that you're looking at with this study?
No, so we are working with Shelby County Schools and Baltimore City Public Schools.
Sorry, I should have been clear, in the city of St. Louis.
Yes, in the city of St. Louis.
Thank you. And then with respect to this grant, so how much money is being put into this grant and to your research for this?
So this is a 3-year grant for $512,000.
I see.
To Grant Foundation.
And the district's not benefiting from any of that money except for with the results of the study, is that correct? We're not using that money for any of our decision making.
That money supports a large research team.
Understood, yes. But not within the district.
Not within the district.
Understood, thank you.
Board Member Hubbard.
So so you're looking at the results for children in that zip code, which is like a hodgepodge of neighborhoods and not any specific neighborhoods, right?
Yes, in the zip code.
Okay. Just want to say zip codes are not, I know it's not you, but zip codes are not really valid areas to study because the post office made them they're not meaningful when it comes to where people live. And so you're looking at the results for children who lived in that area when the grant started, or when the experiment can't be the right word, when it started,
Yes.
and not any other kids.
Those are the folks who receive most of the services and were part of the housing redevelopment. And so those are the students that we are following across time.
And you're not looking at all the kids that were at SLPS schools in that area code. It's just the ones that live there.
Our primary population of students is those who lived in the public housing units and received the HUD services.
And we are a district of choice, which means that if you can get to another neighborhood school, you can go there, or you can be in a magnet school. So do you know yet, will you know if the majority of the kids living there went to those 7 SLPS schools?
That'll be a primary study outcome, is to look to see where students move to throughout the study period, if they moved. And we'll be able to see where they started at.
Okay. Because just because you live somewhere doesn't mean you go to the closest school. And that could, it is an interesting question that I think would be good to explore. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Jabari.
Thank you for your time.
And now we'll move to Dr. Dano in academics. So far, for the 24-25 academic year, you've heard from our dual enrollment program at Harris Stowe and St. Louis Community College. You've also heard about our adult education program. Tonight, Dr. Dano will be bringing information on the dual enrollment program at Rankin. Dr. Dano.
Good evening, President Cousins, Vice President Davis, members of the board, Dr. Bordichardet. In this particular academics office update, we're focused on the SLPS strategic values of joyful and engaged students, personalized supports and innovative pathways, and college and career ready thinkers. When we think about all of our dual enrollment programs, it's about choice for students. They're making choices about what they want to learn, what they want to do, what brings them joy. We also know our student success goals are the focus of our efforts. We want to ensure that all dual enrollment opportunities that we have for students allow them to meet these goals and more importantly, embody and support all of our students to embody those portrait of a graduate competencies. You're going to hear tonight from 2 students who are here talking about the impact that this particular program has made on them and their personal connections to the portrait of a graduate work. Our spotlight, as Dr. Borchade shared, is our dual enrollment program at Rankin Technical College. We currently have 28 students spread across nearly all of our high schools who participate in this program. Of them, 15 are 11th graders and 13 are seniors. In order to be able to participate in this program, students must have a 2.5 or above GPA, 85% attendance, a grade of B or higher in their 10th grade math course. That helps them have eligibility. 11th graders participate in 3-hour introduction to construction trades courses every other day, and 12th graders enroll full-time in courses at Rankin and supplement as needed with virtual courses through SLPS so they can still maintain their on-time graduation. As with all of our pathways and programs, we're looking to expand and make sure we have opportunities for all students and to ensure that what we're doing is of high quality. Rankin will have an open house for interested 10th graders on April 5th because the application for next school year closes on April 19th. All juniors who participate will be able to have a week-long orientation at Rankin during the summer of 2025 to help them get the most out of their experience that they can. And now on to the most exciting part of the night. I am super thrilled to introduce you to 2 students this evening who are going to share with us their experiences at Rankin. We first have Isaiah McCoy, a 12th grader from McKinley High School. He's here with his dad this evening. And then we have another student after that. So please come up, Mr. McCoy.
Good evening. My name is Isaiah McCoy. I'm currently enrolled in McKinley Classical Leadership, and I attend electrical automation program at Rankin Technical College, and I'm excited to talk to you about my experience there and how they have helped me be ready for the real world. Rankin is very diverse, and it introduced me into a whole new group of people. You see people all different ages, as young as me, and I've seen people there that's old enough to be my dad. So you get to work with a lot of different people, yeah, so my bad. And they make you collaborate with everybody. Like, they make you get a new partner in every group project. Partner in every group project. So it's just something new to help you get ready for the real world, because in the field you don't get to pick who you get to work with, and it gets you really career ready, because they help you do real world problems. Like in electrical, we do commercial shop, residential shop, and we work on motor controls and PLCs. We do a lot of hands-on work. It's not really like a normal classroom. You do math problems and stuff like that, but you're mainly in the shop with hands-on work, just wiring stuff up. That's really all I had to say. Thank you.
You gotta come back, brother. You don't get to walk away that soon. Dad, you too. Come on up, Dad. Any questions? I have a question for Dad. So, Dad, tell me, what did you think about the program and when he came to tell you about the program?
Well, first off, my name is Montrell McCoy. I'd like to thank y'all for inviting us here tonight so we can share my son's experience at Rankin. I really appreciate the time that y'all have spent to allow him to speak on his endeavor at Rankin. First off, it did shock me that he was interested in progressing his education in a manner in which Rankin provides. I never thought that he would be interested in something like that. But for them doors to open up to him and for him to be able to choose to obtain this type of knowledge, this type of experience through this school and this technical institution, it really uplifted my thoughts about where my son can go from here on out. And this program has really taught him how to own, have a little accountability for his life that's coming up, and to make sure that he can obtain any choice that he wants to in life through education, prosperity, and hard work. So I really thank y'all for that. From hearing us out, thank you, Rankin. And I can't ask for anything more. I really appreciate what Rankin has done for me.
Well, I want to thank you, sir, and commend you for what you've done. And it's a blessing to see you stand before us and to see your son stand before us. An outstanding work, son. I know you felt uncomfortable, but you did a great job.
I don't know about the old.
Yeah, I know, you was looking around. So for you, what was your experience actually going? I know that was probably something different coming from high school, like going into like a kind of college kind of experience. How did that feel for you, your first day?
The biggest change for me was that they don't really like hold your hand like they do in high school. If you don't do your work, they don't really care. They'll just tell you to do it, and if you don't do it, then that's on you.
So you had to step up.
Yeah, it's a big responsibility change. Like, they don't do late work up there either, so either you do it on time or you don't get it in.
So do you have the ability after this to actually go straight into a career?
It depends on what program you choose, because I heard that plumbing was 2 semesters, so if I did plumbing, then I would be able to, but I have 2 more semesters after this.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, congratulations. I know your parents are very proud of you, and
Thank
we are too. So in 5 years, where do you see yourself, number one? And how about entrepreneurship? If you were to start thinking about doing something on your own in the future, what would it be if you had a chance?
In 5 years, if I do continue to do ranking, I hope that I am a successful electrician. And as far as entrepreneurship, I haven't really thought about it.
Dr. Border-Shade?
Isaiah, what has been your best part? Just walk us through a favorite day or an activity.
I would say the best part is when they give you a shop job and you just kind of got to figure it out yourself. They don't really hand you the whole layout, and if it's wrong, then you got to fix it yourself. Like, they'll tell you it's wrong, but you just got to figure it out, and then when you figure it out on your own, it's just a whole new joy.
Wow. And then my other question is, what would you say to encourage another student to experience the things that you've experienced?
I would just say if you don't know what you want to do in life, then it's a great place to start.
Thank you. Great job.
Board Member Hubbard?
So you're studying to be an electrician?
Yes.
Can you just tell us about one of your projects? Like, what you needed to do?
First semester, it was a lot of residential work. You would like wire up a switch to a luminaire or a receptacle. And second semester, it was like commercial work where you would like bend conduit, and you have to put up like the brackets and placeholders yourself. And then now we're on to like transformers and motor controls. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I know St. Louis and everywhere needs trained electricians, and a lot of us have really wonky switches in our house that shouldn't be there. So I'm excited. Thank you for coming.
Board Member Conifer?
I just want to say thank you. As Board Member Hubbard said, we need a lot of electricians around here, and if you're interested in it, we need more folks doing that. So it sounds like you've had a good experience. Maybe, talking up here is a little nerve-wracking, but we appreciate everything you've done, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
And in the future, just say when I'm successful, not if.
All right.
Claim it. Congratulations, good job.
Thank you.
And our next student this evening is David Harris. He's a 12th grade student from Gateway STEM. Come on up, David.
How y'all doing? Good evening, members of the faculty, school board, and guests here today. I'm David Harris. If y'all would like, I would like to tell y'all a little bit about my experience at Rankin. I'd like to say personally that being at Rankin has taught me a lot about personal responsibility, taking ownership of my accidents, and being able to critically think at a level that I wasn't to before. It evaluated me to another level of efficiency that I couldn't previously obtain because I didn't choose to attach myself to my education as profoundly.
I mean, do y'all have any questions for this young man? Because I'm just going, baby.
So, David, how did you decide to enroll in this program? And did you say what school you went to? What high school you're in?
I apologize. I go to Gateway STEM High School.
So you were at Gateway STEM. How did you decide? Because you have to, go across town and take these other classes. How did you decide to do that?
It was a really fortunate situation. I ended up moving over towards the northern side of the town, and I ended up seeing Rankin and realizing, oh, that looks like a pretty cool school. And over the time, I started to do my own personal research as a sophomore. And towards the end of the school year, I was given an offer to come to Rankin and do the carpentry program for juniors. I accepted the offer, and since then, I've just done my best to try to learn something new if I can.
Wow. Dr. Borchardt.
I am just in awe at both of our students who embody the portrait of a graduate. You talked about owning your responsibility. You talked about being a critical thinker, just navigating your way. I'm just so proud, so proud.
Thank you.
Do you know what you want to do after you graduate?
That path I'm still giving time to, primarily because the way Rankin operates, they choose to take us through multiple levels of the field. So as of now, I'm learning precision machining for high performance engines. So the gist of it would be they're teaching us how to build your everyday motor, and which you could see in what's a good option? Honda Civic or something, into a higher horsepower motor, and to be able to actually handle that so you could commute to work, home, and wherever else you need to go safely with reliability involved.
Great job. I also want to name that we have some students who are on an HBCU tour now. You said you're a junior?
At the moment, I'm a senior now.
Oh, at the moment, you're a senior. Okay, you'll be graduating. Okay, well, just congratulations. Congratulations, and thank you for your perseverance and stepping up when you said you saw Rankin and you said, let me just look into this. Thank you for just being curious and see where you are now. Congratulations. Well done.
Thank you, ma'am.
So I didn't see this, but is there a fee for you to attend Rankin?
Following graduation, yes, but at the moment, no, ma'am.
No, ma'am. And for you to attend, you have to maintain a GPA of?
I believe 3.5, or at least that's where I set my standard
I
at.
heard that. It's not a problem for you. All right. And you're here with?
I'm here with my mother.
Okay, Mom. Come on, Mama. You know we gonna talk to you. You try to hide. Don't hide your face. Come on up, Mom. We need your opinion. Tell us your thoughts. Because you got a great young man telling his story. He get it from somewhere. Get it from a mama. Get it from a mama. So, Mom, what is your thoughts? Tell us, what did you think about him coming to you about the program, and how do you feel about the program?
I actually originally mentioned the possibility of dual enrollment to him.
Okay.
A few years ago, I actually attended SLPS High School and took advantage of the dual enrollment
Go on,
opportunity. I was able to graduate from high school as a sophomore in college.
Get it, Mama.
So I am still pursuing more education with that money.
So, where did you attend?
So I attended I went to a school that you guys no longer operate, Meeta P. Washington,
Okay.
which obviously ages me, okay? But I was able to do my dual enrollment through which was
Okay.
a wonderful experience. So I was very grateful that that program was still around, and David had the opportunity to be able to take advantage of it as well. We wanted the opportunity, so we kind of like went around kind of seeing what was available for him to just kind of at least maybe do a summer program at some of the colleges just to see what may fit and what may not. I tried to explain to him that maybe traditional college may not be your best option, but a trade is priceless.
That's right.
We need that more than we need anything
That's
else.
right.
So I was very proud that he took the opportunity. He started off with the carpentry program. He liked it, but didn't love it. But he gave it all he had. And then decided to pursue the high-performance automotive field, and ended up falling in love with it. And actually, he was playing around with the idea of the Boeing aerospace program.
Okay.
And they did find out that that was a stepping stone from the high-performance automotive field as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. This is a beautiful thing to see both of you all, both students and both parents here. Outstanding. Thank you all so much for what you're doing, and wish you much success. Board Member Hubbard.
Similar question. What's the favorite thing you've built during your time there?
At the moment, inside of the Retrotech shop at the school, we have, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the model, but we have a 81 Corvette. And basically, they had us completely dismantle the rear end suspension of it, and it took about a week. We got it done, but we had to do it so carefully so that we didn't damage anything, but we also had to remove certain components in manners that we preferred not to, but it was the only way to do it, and then clean it up safely.
That's really cool. Thank you.
Board Member Conover.
So first of all, just congratulations again. This is awesome. Second of all, you said that going to Rankin, it helped accelerate your learning. Could you give like an example of that, or what you were sort of referencing there?
Referring to my learning, I was primarily referring to my own personal growth.
Yeah.
Rankin made me honestly snap out of my spoiled brat era of my life. Like, I went from choosing to procrastinate usually and try to brush off work, do it last minute, stuff like that, and just it turned around when I went there, and they gave me the trust to get what they needed me to do done. Like, for instance, they needed me and a friend of mine to cut out 6.5 inches from a rear end seat for, I think it was wasn't it Escape? No, it was a Expedition.
Okay.
And they trusted me to cut out 6.5 inches from this with the Sawzall blade, and then re-weld it back together, put the padding on, and give it back to them. They were happy with it, so I was stuff like that, and being able to proceed with doing stuff like that has been helpful in me getting not only more confident in my work, but also, what's the word I'm looking for? Not just becoming more confident in my work, but also me becoming more proficient at my work.
No, that's great, and it's very clear that you have a passion for what you're doing now here at Rankin, and I'm glad SLPS was able to help facilitate that. And you're an amazing example of where our students can go with their lives to find something that you're passionate about and get the opportunity to work in it is priceless. So thank you for coming to present to us. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you so much. Thank you both.
Thank you all.
Dr. Henning, proud, huh? Proud.
So can I ask, Dr. Hank, don't leave. I just have a quick question. So right now it's 28 students. Is that the capacity of the program?
The capacity is 35.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so is there interest growing that we could fill that capacity?
And this year, actually, there's more students than we had last year. So we are growing. A lot of the growth in any of these programs, too, is a little bit of the word of mouth when kids hear how much other kids are enjoying it as well, in addition to the advertisements or things that happen with counselors and at schools.
Great. No, I'm getting a little sentimental in this last month, and I remember when we went over to that building and they were like, can you guys use this? What can we do? And Dr. Bender and Henning like, yes. And we're like, do it. So this is great to see this final product. This is
Thank you. And now we will move into our HR audit. Dr. Hubbard, our Director of Compliance and Internal Audit, has been tasked with reviewing all of the past audits. In January, Dr. Hubbard shared an update on operations, more specifically transportation. In February, Dr. Hubbard shared an update on finance, and today she will be sharing information on HR. Dr. Hubbard has used the report from the Council of Great City from 2022-2023 to identify areas that guides her work.
And I have to follow the superstars. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Good evening, Board President Cousins, members of the board, and to our superintendent, Dr. Borshade. Tonight's presentation will be a brief presentation of the 2022 Council of Great City Schools Human Resource Assessment and how our HR team has responded and is responding to the assessment. As always, we are committed to our SLPS strategic values, and how we handle the district staffing and people resources is a through line to having highly effective educators and leaders. We are likewise committed to our student success goals, and all these things support our efforts to meet the needs of our students and help them manifest our portrait of a graduate. So the agenda for this evening is a summary of the 2022 observations will be provided. Audit recommendations will be covered, and a review of the corrective actions that have been taken and are being taken by our human resources team. All right, so summary of observations. I'm not going to read all the bullets. Hopefully everyone can see them. But
And they've been posted since Thursday, so.
wonderful,
Yes.
wonderful. All right, so there were some poor ratings by principals and administrators whose concerns included, and this is from that assessment, their concerns included feeling unaware of HR's responsibilities in the hiring process, lack of action when following up with candidates, feeling excluded from the hiring process. So that is some of the information that we received from our principals and building leaders. HR staff themselves reported feeling a bit overwhelmed and they felt that they were not conducting the duties for which they were hired. There were feelings of being undervalued and being underpaid. And there were concerns regarding the lack of responsiveness by HR teams and poor service. Now, of course, these were summarizing what their interviewers received. The staff felt like additional duties were imposed upon them without additional compensation. There was a lack of communication between HR's internal teams and a lack of department meetings, which are necessary to calibrate goals, mission, and vision. So other observations had to do with the lack of cross-training in our HR teams, which would ensure that processes can continue even when staff members may be out or unavailable. And there was a feeling that there was a gap in communication and services needed to provide support to the schools. They found that there were concerns regarding the salary schedules, creating a perception of pay inequities, and that there were errors that could occur due to manual, time-consuming processes. Gosh, just when you think you're at the end of the observations. Okay. Also, there was an observation that there was a lack of key performance indicators to measure performance as a baseline to evaluate and improve core functions through the department. So there was also a lack of automated and streamlined onboarding processes, over-reliance on individuals to process critical business functions manually. That's often disrupted by high turnover and absenteeism. And then there were concerns over inefficient applicant tracking system, which would aid in HR struggles to fill critical staff vacancies. I'm looking up periodically to make sure I'm on the right slide with the right words. Okay. Some additional concerns included HR investigation results were not being shared with principals or supervisors. Exit surveys for employees that voluntarily left the district showed that teachers were leaving the district because they felt unsupported by their principals. Although I would recommend that we encourage some professional development through our professional development team, offering that to our principals so that they can have courses to learn how to support their teachers and foster retention efforts in their schools. Another observation was HR does not obtain feedback on the onboarding experiences of new hires to identify needed changes in that onboarding experience. Some concerns were focused on the district, such as the employee evaluation process. Employees were concerned that information that was obtained through surveys was not shared, and as a result, they didn't know how to make a change. And this would be, again, when people voluntarily leave the district and they complete those exit surveys, the principals and the administrators, they want to know why, if that isn't already evident before they leave, obviously. Information pertaining to exit interviews wasn't being shared on a regular basis. So, audit recommendations. The Council of Great City Schools recommended that HR continue to move forward, setting a laser focus on customer service and efficiency. They felt that there was a need to develop a realistic 5-year strategic plan which focused on customer needs. That plan should include things like benchmarks, quantifiable goals, increased use of technology, service level standards, productivity standards for employees to increase their accountability as well. And that plan should be refreshed annually. Other recommendations were the development of standard operating procedures and cross-training on the team so that they would all in HR be able to help assist other department employees and bring up their levels of service. Also, HR should develop opportunities to receive feedback and insight from internal and external stakeholders. Okay. it was recommended that whenever there are decisions being made on potential school closures, lack of, or decline rather, in or unused classroom seat options, that we definitely have representation from HR at the table so that they are able to keep manpower in mind when and whether that's a reduction or an increase that's necessary. There needs to be a better system of identifying and tracking strong substitute teachers for the district's pipeline as well. And mind you, again, reminder, these recommendations were from 2022. And we'll get to the actions that have been taken in a moment. HR should develop strategies and set aside the necessary funding to fill hard to staff and critical areas that are lacking employees. Improve their communication and timeliness of that communication so that the district does not lose talented people, and create relationships with local universities and organizations to attract talented educators and staff as a part of the pipeline. So on this slide, we talk about ongoing coaching for the school's administrators, implementing those key performance indicators. But an example of key performance indicators, using customer satisfaction surveys, focus groups to identify areas of concerns, especially with the school site principals. That was a big area of focus in the recommendations, getting more feedback from the principals and the employees out in our district. And using that input to establish future priorities, training opportunities, and process improvements. They also recommended that HR shift their emphasis away from transactional activities to a vision of proactivity by utilizing current HR technologies and becoming a strategic 21st century HR resource. They also talked about maximizing the use of data that relies on fact-based and analysis-centric justifications for decisions, like using benchmarks or other techniques like metrics, turnover rates, absentee rates, substitute fill rates, vacancies, and there was a long list of different types of metrics that HR could utilize. HR needs to eliminate the over-reliance on a single person to complete specific job functions by establishing succession planning and cross-training, and implement a systematic review and evaluation of the teacher recruitment program. We need to develop funding for realistic recruitment and marketing budget for the job fairs and travel that our recruiters participate in. Identify and fill seasonal staffing to ensure that we're well represented at job fairs and university recruitments. And they recommended posting teacher openings on the leading region statewide online teacher posting websites, career sites, organizations, leveraging social media, possibly using recruitment incentives to fill hard-to-fill positions, and funding paraprofessional career ladder opportunities. Developing clearly defined standard operating procedures and proactive development of corrective actions for potential bottlenecks in the recruitment and onboarding process, and tracking current HR costs so that we could be more effective in budget allocations in the future, maximizing return on investment for recruiting efforts. The recommendations also included building strategic and coordinated district-wide professional development plans to increase the coherence and employee value. That effort should follow design and implementation of district-wide professional development plans that include well-documented orientation and onboarding processes, welcoming environment for new employees, well-defined and structured orientation to and about the district and its culture, job-specific onboarding and training for new hires, ongoing professional development to enhance job skills, and the use of technology was a huge recommendation, and that will allow us to automate our onboarding tracking system so that principals and other staff can observe where candidates are in the onboarding process. Okay, so more recommendations. Continuing efforts in those exit interviews to ensure that the retention of new teachers, including safety net programs, are developed, mentoring the staff, and making sure that we're tracking that mentoring opportunity and those retention efforts. Evaluating and using longevity stipends was one of their recommendations. I looked up because, you know, that's something that not just HR would be involved in that discussion. Participation in professional organizations, in-depth new employee orientations, and visiting peer districts to gather performance, best practices, recruitment, and customer service strategies, along with technological strategies that they're using as well. And last but not least, we've talked about the cross-training, just so that there's always a coherent someone in the office that can help whenever there's a call or a need. So, what has our HR team been doing? And they have been busy. They had, initially when this report came out, they jumped on the recommendation to convene a group that could review the prior findings and would work with the prior findings to make improvements. So Dr. Huber in HR is the project manager that it helps guide that work. They have an ongoing HR review team that to ensure that they're aligning with our transformation plan. They're working with CGCS, which is the Council of Great City Schools, to facilitate any type of training and HR success blueprints. And at the present moment, HR is using a spreadsheet of those observations and recommendations to track their progress. Let's see. HR is, I've talked about that. They've divided their processes in phases. They have 3 phases. Part 2 of their phase 2 rather, of their process will be cross-training personnel to meet the goals of their strategic plan. On the organization side, their strategic plan was actually presented to the board back in November of last year, which hopefully for those members who were here, you remember that presentation from Dr. Berry. And they'll continue to work with the teacher prep programs, of course, to continue to fill our pipeline of potential candidates. Other corrective actions, under the current system, as far as for substitute teachers, our schools don't receive additional substitutes for day-to-day absences. The school only gets substitutes assigned for long-term absences, such as for FMLA leaves or workman's comps leaves. So they are reviewing the data on the efficacy of that system and will determine if that system is the way to continue or if they should proceed with a different type of system for for keeping our pipeline of substitutes fresh. They have been working with principals on a monthly basis to have focus group discussions with the principals to get insight from them on what they need from HR in order to build that partnership that was missing or that was perceived to be missing at the time. New hire surveys will be sent, or they're probably being sent now, to certificated and non-certificated employees to gain a better understanding of the onboarding process and any areas, and to determine if there are any areas of improvement. And they are also leveraging existing systems that we have to create to conduct cost-benefit analysis to determine if the money spent on recruiting efforts is really providing the benefit that we need to see for our recruitment efforts. They have been cross-training. They do have standard operating procedures for their practices. They have been looking at their historical spending and comparing that to what their outcomes are when it comes to their recruitment efforts. And they're leveraging building leaders and teachers and teacher interns in this process as well to make sure that they're getting applicable feedback. Dr. Archer in HR has met with administrators in 28 of our schools to make and enhance the connections between the administrators and HR. The receipt of two-way feedback is facilitated during those visits. And again, those focus groups are happening with their principal focus group on a monthly basis. There's also a Black Teacher Affinity Group that meets semi-annually. And they use the Academic Achiever newsletter also to gain information and feedback from the district. So, HR has data related to retention and incentive bonuses. I'm sure that'll be presented when and if they feel that should be. They're focusing on their existing processes to make sure that they're bringing them up to date. On a side note with that, Focus, which is a software that the board approved, a system that the board approved back in, when was that? November of last year, has the opportunity to really provide the automation that HR can use. And we're at the moment waiting on some feedback from Dr. Borchade on potentially moving forward with the implementation on that. So that system should actually help move forward and move us away from all of the manual tracking and processes that we have been using in HR.
The ERP for Focus has been approved, so we will be moving forward. We just need to find a project manager for it.
That's exactly it. All right. So the department timeline has been developed. I mean, they're not finished, obviously. There's a lot to get through and a lot to work on as a result of the assessments. But they are diligently working on them. I'm hopeful that the principals would feel more heard at this time because they have been communicating with them on a regular basis. I, during this process, had the opportunity to do some coaching with HR team to not only on obtaining like the sign-in sheets when they actually have those meetings during the focus groups. One thing that they had been doing is keeping the invitations, the calendar invites. And so just like we do with any other professional development or any other meetings or trainings that we have, moving forward, they'll be obtaining sign-in sheets for those meetings so that we can document who was actually in attendance. And then I also got to do a little bit of coaching on just being audit ready at all times. whenever, you never know when we might have an external auditor come in or the state. And so they received that feedback very well. They worked really hard to get me some information that I needed. Just today, earlier, a few hours ago, we were still working through documentation, but I did receive it, and I am very pleased with the documentation that they have pulled together. They do have it in one central location, which was my initial concern, but I did see it today, and so I'm happy to report that HR has made some strides in really pulling together the department. Of course, there's still open positions, there's still open actions that are being cultivated, but they are on track to meet all of the recommendations that we will implement for our team. Any questions?
I just want to say thanks for this recap and to thank Dr. Berry and her team. Again, I'm getting sentimental, but I remember in 2021, we approved this Council of Great City Schools system review, and it took a year for it to even go forward. And then when it did, it was a lot, and I think it was probably overwhelming. And I mean, I think we were trying to say, like, hey, this is supposed to be a roadmap. This isn't like a list. And so to see it continually be resourced and used, hopefully it's helpful. And hopefully that we're seeing those results. But I appreciate the coming back to it.
And one thing I was able to tell the team today is that, you know, the next time when I actually come to do an audit with the team, they'll get document request lists in advance, and it will be a much easier, I think, opportunity for them to ask questions before I even start that audit process. So, but again, we had a couple bumps, but we got through it, and it worked out well. Any other questions?
I also just wanted to say thanks to you and thanks to Dr. Berry for kind of had to jump in with both feet, and I really appreciate the work you've done.
And I second that. Dr. Berry is kind of has the entire department on her shoulders now, and so it is really amazing to see the work that she's doing and how her team is coming together under her leadership. So kudos.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Hubbard.
All right.
And now you will hear from our new Chief Financial Officer. She's going to be bringing financial updates. Ms. Kimberly Johnson will provide finance updates, which will include information from our Reuben Brown audit and dates and times for us to engage with the community to begin budgeting for the 25-26 school year. Ms. Brown, can you? There we go. Thank you.
You mean you can't see me?
I couldn't hear you.
Good evening, President Cousins, Vice President Davis, Superintendent Dr. Borashade, and other board members. I am excited to be here and be a part of the SLPS team. And so let's get started with the financial update. Tonight's presentation is going to focus on two of the strategic values that you see on the board. The first one is equitable and multiple sources of data. The second is authentic family and community partnerships. Portrait of a graduate, as you guys always do. This is not just a ladder, but it's critical building blocks for our students. We talk about the career readiness, being a change agent, being critical thinker, being a good communicator, being competent and culturally aware, and being a collaborator. That's what we do every day here, and that's what we're teaching our kids. Let's talk about the financial audit. This is my third week here, so I want to just preface that. We are in the midst of our audit, financial audit for 2024. It ended June 30th, 2024. Our auditing firm is Reuben Brown LLP, and they're located here in St. Louis, Missouri, which is really good. The initial audit letter was received July 2nd in 2024, and then the request for documentation started to come in August. Now, let's be honest, the audit documentation and the audit was supposed to be completed December 31st. I'm going to repeat that because I know that's the elephant in the room. The audit was supposed to be completed December 31st. We are now 3 months past that date, and we are working towards completing the audit, which will be completed this week, March 31st.
March 28th.
Yeah, March 28th. Seems like that date keeps creeping up and up and up, but that's okay. We're going to make it. Why was the audit late? To be honest with you, the audit was late due to a lot of transitions that the financial department has been seeing. Changes in leadership, and when you have changes in leadership, you have morale problems. Now, I'm not giving any excuses, because that's not what I do, but when you have low morale, you have low productivity. And so things happen because of changes, and we're now improving those. We're going to make the deadline. We're going to make sure that this process isn't late going forward for 2025, and we're going to put changes in place that is going to support meeting those deadlines. We hired an independent management consulting firm, Harrison Lee, who was hired in February of 2025 to come in and look at how to get this audit process moving. And we also started to work with Reuben and Brown, who is our auditors, on a more of a weekly, and now it's a daily process. What you see right here is just a general example of the spreadsheet that we use every single day. The auditors request information. We submit that documentation and that information. They come back and they tell us if the information has passed or if it's failed, if there are additional supporting documentation and data that we need to provide to them. And we repeat this process every single day over and over again until we can get this audit passed through. Right now, we're working on the last part of the revenue, where now we'll be moving forth towards the expenditures. And what they're doing right now with that information, they're drafting the financial statements for your review and approval. When we started to get this data and started to see that we were behind, we started to look at how do we make improvements, real life, real time improvements. So we started to build a team where not only do they meet twice a week, they were meeting, but now we are meeting every single day for 8 hours a day in what we consider our war room. What does that look like? That means you have every single partner that is here to support this team in that war room. We're working together. We're addressing the issues that we need to face. We're pulling the data together. We're talking about the data and looking at the results and say, do it make sense? Will it make sense to the auditor? And especially, how would the public receive that information? We also have the privilege of having a previous CFO, Pam Frazier, who is now part of the MSBA board, who comes in and gives us her real-life point of view. She's been through this and guiding the team as a whole. The next part we're going to talk about is the DESI Correction Action Plan. As you guys know, a corrective action plan is put in place to face and look at things that you need to improve upon. Performances, are you in compliance? Is the program being implemented correctly? And if not, how do you put those corrective actions in place to make sure it does? Our plan is going to look at specific steps, actions, put together a timeline, and then we will look at those actions step by step and meet those requirements that are in place for compliance. We had our ESSER 3 action plan submitted on February 27th. I think I'm gone too far. Okay, there we are. The CAP was submitted to DESE, and then it was returned to us. We're requesting additional information. So we're now in plan of gathering that documentation to resubmit it to DESE. And then once they approve that information, we will continue to track and monitor, but then we will start to build for the next upcoming year. Let's talk about something that I was excited to be a part of my second day, I think, here. First week, second day. And that was the issuing of the new bond. As you guys know, was approved back in August 2022 for a $160 million bond under Proposition S. That bond was used to build infrastructure projects, capital projects for our schools, dealing with anything that deals with the infrastructure, renovations, you know, really needed items like roof and HVACs and renovations of playgrounds. We had the third submission of the bonds, and that was for $25 million. The person or the group that actually handled was the underwriter, was Stifel Public Finance. So when that went to public for selling, $25 million turned into $75 million of orders. I'm going to repeat that because that's very important. $25 million issued of bonds turned into $75 million of orders. That brought to our SLPS a total of $26 million that we are now going to use to continue with our Prop S projects. How do we get there? What was the impact of the bonds? Besides the fact that we're now knowing that that's going to be used to continue our Prop S projects, but the reason why we were able to get such a good interest rate and to get $75 million in orders was because of our S&P rating. Our rating, which is like S&P is our credit rating for a business, was AA-. That's really good. When you consider everything economic indicators that we see in the world today, we were able to get $75 million in orders based off of our credit. And we're going to continue that. Interest rate, we were able to receive, we ended it at 3.14. Let me go back. 3.14, I think it is. Well, 3.119. Which was really good. We were expecting about 3.14, and we actually got a better interest rate of 3.11. So again, today, the final sale and closure of the bonds was approved and signed off on, and that's done. It's closed now. So we were able to do that today. Again, our projects are going to be focused on 2 schools, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gateway STEM High School and Central VPA Collegiate. And that school. Okay. 3 schools, okay. Just to kind of give you an idea of some of the people who brought our bonds: Fiera Capital, Commerce Bank, U.S. Trust Bank, Franklin, and Nuveen. Those are just some of the people who brought our bonds. Now the favorite part that I'm looking forward to is our community forum. You may ask, what is our community forum? And our community forum is going to be able to meet with our center, our stakeholders, our community, our parents, and talk about our budget process. Talk about our financial process and be able to sit with them and help them to understand what we do financially here and how it supports our students. These are going to be centered around being engaging, open and honest and transparent information, And it's going to be interactive. It's not going to be me standing up here giving a financial report like you guys looking like you're bored right now. And no, I don't take offense. But I want it to be, it's going to be more interactive. It's going to be at the levels where the parents can understand how the finances are flowing to our schools, how it's helping our students. And so we're going to make it really fun and informative and participatory. So we're looking forward to having that. It's going to align with all of our transformative plans and initiatives and our values. And we're going to discuss key budget areas like the budget development process. That's important because we need to know how we develop our budgets every year, and how do we have those budgets approved, and how are they looked at, and how are we determining things such as operational costs and purchase services and, supplies and materials, and also FTEs, salaries. We're going to look at school budget models and give historical point of view. How do you know where you're going if you don't know where you're coming from? So we're going to look at the past 3 years of budgets. We're going to show them the growth in the areas where we needed to grow, and we're going to show them the areas where we did cost savings. We're going to talk about our budget challenges. We have a lot of budget challenges, as you guys know. I won't use the D word because that's not proper to use here, but we will do.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, well, okay. But we know that we have budget opportunities for growth and challenges. And we're going to be honest and transparent about that and work together with the community and the stakeholders to show them how we're improving upon that. And then we're going to talk about our consequences of inaction. What does that look like? How does that affect the students? How does that affect us as an organization? So we have 2 forum dates in 2 locations. The first forum date is Saturday, August 26th, at the location central office. It's going to be from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., and we invite everyone to come out. There's going to be communication that's going out to all of the parents and stakeholders to come out for this forum. And then the second forum is going to be Monday, April 28th, at Adams Elementary School between the hours of 5:30 p.m. and 7 p.m. So again, we got 2 dates already confirmed, locations, and you'll see communications coming out that's going to announce this to our communities. Any questions?
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
My question is, this is a wonderful thing to have a community forum about finances. And I'm noticing that this will be geared toward the parents, the adults in the room. So in the future, could we possibly think about how we can have a forum or some type of educational process for our students so that they understand how the money is spent in their schools and how the taxes are spent, that kind of thing, to help them develop a greater understanding?
Yes, we can, definitely.
Just to go back to the audit, so we are going to have it submitted to the federal deadline by the 31st.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the board will need to approve that before it's submitted.
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
So we'll have to have a special meeting between now and the 31st,
Yes.
Yes.
just so everybody knows. We can do that by Zoom. So you can do it here, you can do it anywhere. My other question is, and just maybe this is just planting a seed, because this was a struggle this year. I think we have to put the auditor out for bid. Normally, I think that's done earlier than it is now. So I just thinking ahead, I want to make sure that that's not a holdup in the process. But going along with that, and I know you're not done with this one, and you just inherited all this, but what changes or what improvements are we making? Because this is year 2 that we're late. It's not going to happen in year 3.
That's correct.
We will come back with all of that information.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, I still have a question.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And so we've been told that we will get our like current financial updates once the audit is complete.
Yes.
So that will happen.
We plan to do a third quarter budget review at the April 8th meeting. I think that's scheduled.
Okay, thank you.
So just to follow up on that, so the audit will produce the CAFR, the ACFR, the names always change, and that's going to show the actual spending. So it'll show the actual deficit, what that was. It'll show the budgets in terms of transportation. We always throw out the 35 million. It's going to show if that was actually less than that. Those details that people are focused on, but it's also going to show a lot of other issues as well. But that's going to be done after all that information is submitted and put in that reporting document, so everyone has the same document, the public, DESE, the federal government, right?
Yes, but keep in mind the time period for this audit was July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024.
Last fiscal year.
Last fiscal year, yes. And everything is going to build from that audit.
I just wanted to second Secretary Jones's comments that doing this public forum sounds like a great idea. It's good to get this information out to the public, and I also wanted to second that we should be doing something for the students in this front as well, so they understand the financial literacy involved with the district. So thank you, and welcome to SLPS.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Johnson. Welcome to the team. I do want to also just share that, in addition, we know that Teacher Appreciation Month is quickly approaching in May. And one of the things I'd like for the board to consider is the ability for principals to be able to allocate a maximum of $35 per staff for the entire school year to purchase items for staff. We'll come back around for a response. Community partners. Ms. Kane, our Director of Development, will share the process for identifying and engaging the community partners. Authentic and family community partnership is one of our values. As we continue to engage in community partnerships, it is important that there is alignment with our strategic values in all of the partnerships that we have.
Thank you
Ms.
very
Kane?
much. Good evening, everyone. So I am Erin Kane. I'm the Director of Development here at SLPS, and tonight I wanted to talk to you a little bit about our Community Partner Program. So, sorry, 1 second. So, as Dr. Borchade mentioned, all of our community partners are aligned with our student success goals as well as our strategic values. So, all of our community partners go into a variety of our schools and touch every aspect of student life here in SLPS. So we want to make sure it is well-rounded and represents who we are as a district. So tonight I want to talk a little bit about who community partners are, and then go into our renewal cycle. So we had a new onboarding process this year, which means that we are finally up for our renewal. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about the timeline for onboarding new community partners for the upcoming academic year. So, as a refresher, community partners are organizations that provide in-kind goods and services to the district, so anything that is free and of no charge. Typically, they work one-on-one with students, they have a recurring presence in our school, or they might request permanent space like a resource closet. So I did want to highlight a few of our community partners that are currently in our schools, broken down by our student, 4 student goal areas. So for literacy, we have 24 partners in that area, with new partners being like Story Pirates, who focus on creative writing on third and fourth graders. We also have returning partners like the YMCA and of course St. Louis Public Library, who expanded their reach this year with e-library cards. We have 12 math partners, like the zoo and our STEM partner, Gateway to the Great Outdoors. College and career readiness, we have 16 partners, with new partners like CyberUp, which focuses on online safety and security for students from grades 3 through 12. And then we also have a large swath of our partners that fall into the student health and wellness category. So that is everything from dental, mental health, physical health, after school, arts, performing arts, all of that. So some new partners that we are excited about is Dental Safari. So that is a dental provider for our students. And then some returning partners, National Council of Jewish Women, B-Works as well. So this is a quick look at our community partner cycle. So as I mentioned, this is the first year where we pulled all of our community partners under one department. So we revised the onboarding process, and it starts with the RFQ. So a nonprofit organization would submit an RFQ. From there, it would go into our internal approval process where a minimum of 3 SLPS staff members would review it. So it's department heads, principals, district leadership, so that we get a very full rounded view of making sure that it fits our alignment and fits our goals within SLPS. Once it finishes that internal approval process, we will work to build out that MOU and present it to you, the board, for approval. Post-approval, we will work to make sure that every individual covered on that MOU goes through our background check process. And then we would start the program implementation, which brings us to where we are right now in the yellow box, which is our renewal and evaluation cycle. So right now, we are hoping to launch our renewals for the next academic year later on this month. All of our MOUs are good for an academic year, so all of our MOUs for community partners would be expiring June 30th, 2025. So the renewal process will be online. All of our community partners will first be evaluated on their program successes from this year. So we will be contacting them one-on-one. We know that there might have been confusion or turnover, so we want to make sure that we're providing that great customer service and we're a great partner to our community partners back. So we're going to be reaching out to them and helping them through this process. And then we also want to talk to them a little bit about update. So if there's a change of leadership, staffing, scale of work, any of that, we want to make sure that we touch base. And then we also want to sit down and address our SMART goals together and see how we can build out. And then we will still continue to accept new community partners through the RFQ process. So that will remain the same as that being that first domino to fall. So organization would submit an RFQ and then go to an internal review process, and then we would build out that MOU. And then our timeline, so we're hoping to present our first round of community partners for the upcoming academic year at the June board meeting for you. And then another change that we're hoping to really bring more alignment to the community partner program is doing a series of onboarding for our community partner programs. So if they're focusing on tutoring, we would have an onboarding meeting with academics. If they're focusing on physical health, they would be meeting with our head nurse and making sure that we really are all speaking the same language when we're talking about our students and all working in the same direction. Any questions?
I do. Can I just add some things? On slide, on slide 7, where we talk about our community partnership cycle, I do want to add that we have general counsel in-house. So general counsel will review all of the MOUs before they go for any type of approval. The other thing is, in terms of our partnerships, it is so important, again, when we think about our values, that our partners are aligned with the things that we have going on in St. Louis Public Schools versus having, I'll just leave it that way. It's important that they are aligned. And I say it's important that they are aligned. I heard you mention that they're going to be meeting with academics, and there's a reason for that. When it comes to professional development, the expectation would be that they would participate in our professional development if they're going to be providing some tutoring, so that they understand what it is that our students are working on and the strategies that we are using to assist our students, so that there is a through line from the beginning of the day, through the day, and at the end of the day, that whoever is talking with our students, they're using the same language that our students are familiar with. So I just wanted to add that.
I'm seeing the way you're presenting, and I like how it's done. I don't know if part of this was said, but are you all communicating with the schools, or how are the schools being identified when the partners are coming in? That's my first question. And the second question is, I see you're saying the renewal of the MOU. How does that look when we're looking at building usage? And is that a component where the communication is being done with the principal or whomever with that partner? Is that, or is there like a 6-month checkup? What's the status? How's this partnership looking? Is this successful? What issues are you having? So on and so forth. And I think that kind of supports what Dr. Borders-Shadade is saying.
Yes, so definitely. So one of the things that we really want to do is make sure that, bless you, that our community partners are serving our students in the most impactful ways. So when we're making sure that we're placing them in a school, we are talking with district leaderships, with our networks, with department heads, with the principals, making sure that whatever service they provide, we identify it, we kind of map it out, and then we look at what schools, do they serve elementary schools, do they serve what do they serve, and then we can figure out what is the best school that they could have a big impact in. And then in terms of building usage, of course, yes, principal voice is huge in this. We want to make sure that we are placing community partners where they are going to really have that big impact.
So President Cousins, I want to elaborate. It's important that the principals identify for us what support is needed versus us saying, here is what we have. So they will be provided a list of all of the partners that we have, as well as the services and resources that our partners will come with. And then the principals will then say, okay, I can use this, or we will benefit from this partnership, so that there is a true, authentic partnership between our community partners, our school, and what our students would benefit from.
I think that's what I'm trying to get an understanding on, especially when I'm looking at the slide about the community partner renewal. Is two parts that I'm asking. On the community partner renewal, I'm seeing it says renewals will include the partner evaluation form. Who's a part of that partner evaluation form? Does the principal, does other teachers or parents, do they have a part of giving feedback to say, this is a great program, this is not, or no, I have problems with, that's what I'm trying to understand on the renewal part, as well as what is being stated. Do they have a say to say, we need a program of this magnitude, brought to this school, this is what we see our challenges are, and this would be better fit, a program like this is much needed at this particular school.
It should be based on our return on investment.
That's what
and
I'm
so
asking.
If we,
does it show that?
When we look at our vendor performance, and it says here are the things that we said, or here are the things that the community partners said that we were going to accomplish, then we would go back to the scope of work and look at what was actually accomplished. And when we say look at what was accomplished, we're looking at student data. And if those things were accomplished, then that will help decide whether or not this partnership has met the needs of our students.
Even if that, but I'm saying, at what point, in what space, does the teacher, the principal, or the families have input? That's the part I'm trying, even on a return on investment, where do they have the ability to give their feedback to say, this program is viable. Like this program, you know, like what we were able to see the students coming up here saying, this is what Rankin has done for me, so on and so forth. This is why we would want to keep this program. Where is there space for that, or is there space for that?
Yes, there definitely is. Because as Dr. Borchade mentioned, we definitely want to make sure that we are meeting needs and not just putting services in to put services in. So there's a few ways that we are going to be going about that. One is going to be sending out that MOU. So one thing that we're going to be doing is sending that MOU to every principal that will be served by that organization. So now, you know, like when we talk about some large-scale organizations that serve every single school, like the library, we might not get feedback from every single principal. That's okay. But if it's a very one-site specific MOU, that is going to be required in order to move forward.
Like, for example, the perfect program, one of our biggest partners, two of them, the Little Bit Foundation, Junior Achievement. Like, how do we get input and feedback from families and the principals to say, yep, this is what they've been doing, or nope, you know, this is a waste of our time?
Yeah, so I do also, so the evaluation form on the submission is what's filled out by the organization, but I also have one for principals, so that I want to make sure that, you know, they're also providing the feedback for how we as partners can be better as a district, because at the end of the day, we want our partnerships to be strong, because that's how our students are going to really benefit the most.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm a horrible technical person. One of the things that becomes important here is to understand that what this has to be is partly a marketing process. And in working with Erin, she's a member of the communications team as well, it's getting to that point where we can have that discernment that says, this is what we are putting into the partnerships, this is what you're getting out of the partnerships, quantifying that in very tangible ways that you can then reflect back to the community, building up on it in terms of improvement over time, and then countering by making sure that we're consistently improving on our deliverables. Part of what happens, I think, sometimes is that people get into the functional execution of the work and don't focus up on the creativity of the work. So it gets to the point where you're doing it, and you're doing it well. I sound like LL Cool J. But you don't tell the full story and execute it both internally and externally so that you can get people to the point where they see the benefit. What we have to do is a better job of highlighting the benefits, selling the benefits, and also to leverage our partnerships in tangible ways by making sure that these individuals are able to help us tell our story as equally as we are helping them tell theirs. So that's kind of where we're going.
Thank you. Board Member Conover.
Thank you. So love that we're centralizing this, love that we're having a thorough review process, that it's going through a renewal process, MOU, we're adding feedback into the process. There's a lot of reviews going on. I'm curious, it's great to have community partners. I want to have as many community partners as are supporting the district as possible. What steps are we taking to make sure that community partners that may not have our best interest at heart are excluded from consideration?
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why the RFQ process exists. So it's very robust in terms of, like, we're looking at the organization's staffing structure, what is your mission, what are the programs you provide, what's your history, all of these things to make sure that you're a really good fit for our schools. So we're digging deep in the beginning.
Great, yeah, I know that there's some nonprofits, especially in the community partner space, that sort of need us as part of their check boxes that they need to check to get the sort of grants that they get and the sort of private support that they get. And I just want to make sure that we're keeping that in mind in the process when they come to us needing something from us, but we might not be necessarily benefiting from whatever services they are providing. So sounds like we're aligned based on.
And the other thing is
Yeah, go ahead.
no matching
Yes, right, exactly.
No, it's gotta be totally,
And it sounds like there's some data health, data security involved as well for any pieces they have access to that's not being taken by them and shared anywhere else. And
No.
I know this board is very aligned on these issues. I'm just making sure the public is also aware that we're aligned on this issue. So yeah.
So I don't know, Ms. Kane, if you remember the number, but it was impressive that when we first did this and you went through the process, there were some existing partners that we did not renew, and it caused some stir. And we made up for that by increasing the amount, several times over.
Yes.
So it worked.
Yeah. Yeah. And no, this has been a really collaborative effort, and I think in the long run, it's really going to make a stronger community for all of our schools. So.
But you've done a ton of work on this. A ton. We've seen it.
Yes. Thank you. And Mr. Poole, I'm going to hold you to making sure we advertise all of our successes in this area. So I will do my best. I like that.
How big is your department? How many people will the renewal process take? Do you have enough people to do it?
Yeah, so development is myself and Shantae Lewis. So we are a smaller but mighty team. And, I think that's what really does make us stand out with our community partners is we're able to build those really strong relationships. So.
and I wanna say, the last time that question was asked, it was just one, and so we doubled the team.
Good point, good point.
Great, thank you. I really appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Aaron.
Of course. Thank you, guys.
I do just want to go back and just name that. We know that Teacher Appreciation Month is quickly approaching in May, and one of the things we'd like is for the board to consider for the principals to be able to allocate a maximum of $35 per staff for the entire school year to purchase items for staff.
Yeah, I think it needs to.
Yes. It will be on the consent agenda.
No, that can be added to the consent agenda item. Yes, for the next thing. Right now, we're at, thank you, Dr. Borche, for your presentations. Is there any board members that have reports that they would like to present? I would like to have a report. Today I had the opportunity and the honor to visit Peabody School to see what I want to say is one of the most remarkable things. I want to say last year, was it last year? Last year, the district, the board had approved the reading writing initiative for 6 schools that was implemented within the district. We were able to see parents, students, teachers, principals come and do a presentation to show the growth of our students that have gone from some not really knowing how to read, not knowing how to write, and showing their work. And in less than, I want to say 3 months or 3 or 4 months, 3 months, you saw students that reading growth had grown dramatically. Their writing skills had improved. They were reading in front of us, reading to their parents. Some parents had even did promises to go back to school. You had teachers who were actually not wanting to be a part of the program, that was excited about the program, and they were doing cross-learning. And this program had doubled. The board saw the impact in this program, and we went from 6 schools to now 12 schools. So today was remarkable, I want to say, to see where we were. We were again at Peabody School, and I think that's why I was so passionate about the statement that I was making with the presenter today, because this was something that the district did. This was an initiative that the district took upon themselves to do. And we had a visit by the commissioner, Dr. Esslinger. Is that her name? Am I saying it correct? The Dr. Carla Esslinger, the commissioner of the Department of Education, of Secondary Education, and her chief of staff, as well as the deputy commissioner, come and see what we were doing, and to see the amazement on her face, to see how proud she was, and to see the staff and the students reading before her, and for her to say, you know, this is what this is about. I want to commend Dr. Borshade, her staff, the teachers, the parents, the principals, everyone that was involved in doing this. You know, there is always resistance to change. People don't like it. People don't want it. People are uncomfortable when they hear about it or see it. But I think once they get over it and see the impact and see children that started off not knowing how to read, third graders that were embarrassed, you know, wouldn't want to raise their hand or wouldn't want to be called on, and now fighting to want to be the first to read a story, and now going into the fourth grade and stepping up. So now this program has started on a third grade program implemented, and now it's third and fourth grade. Now it started with 6 schools and now 12 schools. So we're doing something right. So I want to commend you all, and it was very impressive to see the work that you all are doing, and to see the commissioner of the Department of Secondary Education come out, and to see how impressed she was, and for her staff to come. You're doing something right. So keep up the good work, and it was an honor to be present and see that. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, President Cousins. This is a team effort. This is a truly a team effort with all of the cabinet members, Dr. Dino leading the way with that, network superintendents, the AICs. This is truly a team effort. So thank you.
Any other board reports?
There'll be a legislative meeting on Friday at 9 o'clock in this room. Mr. Carroll will be joining us maybe by Zoom, maybe in person, depending on if he can move stuff around, to give us a post-spring break update as we head into the final stretch.
Any other board reports? Board Member Hubbard.
We had a real estate committee meeting yesterday, and we heard a presentation from Navigate about their work with PropS and what's coming next and what they've already done. So they're going to be working on auditoriums, and we are going to start thinking about how we're going to improve safety at our schools with, you know, changes to the buildings. So it was exciting.
Can I just add something? When we say we're going to start thinking about, we're going to continue thinking about the safety, because I don't want it to be thought that March 24th, 2025, we are starting this conversation. We're going to continue.
I'm sorry.
Right?
I feel like it's,
yeah, okay.
If people
No
are
problem.
paying attention, they
Yes,
know we've been thinking about it. But this is the segment of PropS where, big picture, we're looking at all the things. And I also wanted to say something about a high school that has been sending kids home or putting them in ISS for not meeting the uniform requirements. This has been happening, and keeping students out of this classroom will not help our student achievement goals. Uniforms can be great. I love not picking out clothes for my kids, but to prioritize compliance in that area over student learning seems short-sighted. In our student handbook, it says school staff must not remove students from the instructional process or the school environment because of dress code issues. I would like to know how we can make sure that we're following our own student handbook. It's distressing to see that we're going against our own written work, and in ways that are not going to help our district goals. So I would like to just
Thank you. I just want to refer back to our board norms, so thank you for bringing this to my attention. I'm going to defer to Dr. Dino to,
Before deferring to Dr. Dino, I think part of the board norms and the question could be asked is that factual information that you're getting, Board Member Hubbard, or is this information through hearsay? Do you know for that to be factual?
I consider the person who wrote to all the school board to be trustworthy, yes.
But was it factual? Because I'm saying the information was sent to the board. Did you give the staff or the superintendent the opportunity to respond and to address the issue before bringing it to a public meeting?
We have talked about it previously.
So
yes.
if that's the case, then should this be the place or the space for that conversation?
I don't know.
I don't think so. I mean, you can ask the other board members. Is this the place for that?
It's always been my understanding is that when we receive information from parents, staff members at schools, even building principals, that we first forward that information through the administration, generally the superintendent copying the board president. In some instances, if it's a parent issue, it's referred to maybe Ms. Hudson Campbell and the student, but I mean, just bringing it to the board meeting, saying it as fact without giving the administration the opportunity to look into it, to correct it, because they may never have heard of it. I mean, I got the same email, I forwarded it to Dr. Borsch today. I copied Dr. Dino and President Cousins as here, FYI. And every time I've ever done that in the last 4 years, it's generally resolved. So, I mean, I think the reason for that is, one, to protect confidentiality if that exists, because sometimes there are FERPA issues, sometimes there are human resources issues. And in that one in particular, I also copied Ms. McLaughlin because the sender identified it as a legal issue. And so if it's a legal issue, it has always been the training that I've undergone in this board that we've had several times, is that you copy the attorney. Now that we have a general counsel, that's absolutely the first thing to do. But I mean, I think you're subjecting everybody to a lot of issues if you bring that to a public meeting. And this isn't the first time you've done it. I remember you making allegations about tear gas and things like that. So I'm not sure what the impetus of it is, but it certainly doesn't seem to be to find a resolution for everybody involved, because the best way to do that is to direct that to the people who this board has hired and have trusted to take care of that. And if for some reason that doesn't happen, we bring it up as a board discussion. But I mean, you didn't give an opportunity. And this isn't the first time. And so you've been on the governance committee. We just went over those bylaw reviews, and we covered a lot of those issues. So I'm not sure where the disconnect is, Ms. Hubbard, but this is a problem.
Okay.
Is there any other board reports? Dr. Borche, that issue could be addressed. Dr. Dino, you can respond to that issue via email through Dr. Borche from what was presented. If I'm out of line, Attorney Laura, can you please let me know?
If I may, it's a general board practice for employees within the district to copy the superintendent on all communications to the board. So we need to make sure that she's also in the loop and has an opportunity to address the issues.
Thank you. We will move.
If I could also add, I'd like to look at the board training that we've done and make sure that we've amplified it so that everybody understands what the expectations are.
Yes, we have had several board trainings, but we will definitely provide you with the detail board trainings that we all have received. I think the only board member that have not had extensive board training at this point is our newcomer, Mr. Ben. And I'm glad you made that statement. I think we've all just received certificates. I'm glad you have said that. The board members that are here, Board Member Hubbard, Secretary Jones, Vice President Davis, and myself have just received our certificates recognizing us for going through our MSBA training, or continued training through MSBA as board members. So clearly we've had the necessary training or refresher training or whatever we need as board members. This is part of the requirement that we have to have as part of Missouri School Board Association. So, but I'll make sure that you get a manual of our governance training that we are required to have. Absolutely. With that said, I want to move on to the consent agenda. We all have received the consent agenda. This is just the time for review. If anyone has any questions to ask, we will just use this time for questions.
I was just wondering if, and I'll just throw this out there, if 12.3, which is the science resource adoption, might be better suited as an item for action and taken off the consent agenda, because it's, one, a new curriculum adoption. It's over $1 million. It appears from reading it that we've got kind of a mix of new vendors and maybe renewing some old vendors. And so I just think that's a good thing to highlight and have discussions on. And I mean, the curriculum adoptions that we started a couple years ago and going, I think I'm interested in it. I'm sure most parents are interested in it and teachers are interested in it. So I wouldn't even mind a little presentation on that. But pulling it out from the consent agenda, I think might be an opportunity. Just a thought.
So we're planning to bring a presentation to the April work session about the science adoption that includes teachers and principals who've been participating in the adoption process. Yeah.
But that'll be after it's on the April.
So we've put it for you so you have a lot of time to review the documentation. It won't be approved until May.
Okay, so that's another reason why it shouldn't be on the consent agenda, right? So.
Yeah, we're not voting. Yes.
Okay. All right, cool. That's all I had.
I would like to move the 12.2 one to the action item.
Yeah, I'm also have to abstain from 12.2. So.
We won't, that, you don't need to do that until.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll move that on the date, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I had a question about 12.1. I just wanted to find out what schools would receive these digital hearing aids, or is this district-wide? And would these hearing aids have the capability of also, I guess, if the student is in need of foreign language, would it have that ability to decipher different languages?
So I'm going to ask Ms. Boyd to share a little bit about this. And this is a specific fund that has supported students who have IEPs, so special education students specifically. But she'll talk to you more about the usage and where.
So good evening, everyone. So the materials that we'll be purchasing will be district-wide for our students who have deaf, hard of hearing, hearing loss. And again, as Dr. Dino stated, we have a fund, an endowment that renews every year and is very specific on how we can use it. So we wanted to capitalize on some upgrades that we need for our students. It's not going to deal with the language piece, so foreign language is not a part of this. It's just really trying to make sure that the communication between the student and the teacher is clear, that there's no disturbances in the background with the lights and anything of that nature, so that the teacher is not, she's not really overworking herself, and that the students can really hear what's being said in the classroom setting. But this is to support our students across the district.
So I guess all the students have some type of checkup and then this would be the result of the checkup.
We do have audiologists and a half that's here working with our students, and they will be a part of that team working with our itinerant hearing teachers just to make sure the equipment is up and running and it's in a good place. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions regarding the consent agenda? Seeing none, we will go to items to discuss for the threshold of 50,000 and under. Any items? No items. We will go to just what you were asking about, attorney. Action items. We have action items regarding board secretary training. We have Ms. Vaughn that is looking to do secretary training through MSBA, Certified Board Secretary Training Academy, that is required, as well as spring fling training that will be occurring in June of 2025, and Board Secretary Basic Workshop that was going on in Columbia in 2025. I need a motion to approve this training, action item 14.1.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussions? Ms. Vaughn?
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Action item 14.2, MSA, Missouri Association School of Administrators Conference for Dr. Border Shadade. This conference will occur, I think this is tomorrow. Is this tomorrow? Tomorrow. This is tomorrow. I need a motion to approve Dr. Border Shadade's conference for Missouri Association of School Administration, action item 14.2.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussions? Ms. Vaughn?
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion approved.
I need a motion to it.
But before we do, could I make a motion regarding the upcoming board meeting?
Yes.
To move
Oh,
it
yes.
from April 8th to Monday, April 7th, because Tuesday, April 8th is election day, and there are 3 candidates running for the school board, and it's just going to be a busy evening.
Seems good to me.
Okay, so that's my motion.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Ms. Vaughn?
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Somebody said something was happening on the 7th. Oh, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Vaughn?
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins? We're adjourned.